Hello everyone, Sifu Jay here, aka Artist of Truth, Jazzy Fizzle, and for Kennedy Wing Chun, my channel here. I want to talk with you a little bit about what Wing Chun is, right? And at least from my experience, how you shouldn't be trying to apply it. You shouldn't be buying into buying the Wing Chun method, from whatever teacher. Wing Chun is a concept, at least from my personal near 40 years experience in Wing Chun and multiple different martial arts, but definitely in Wing Chun. That Wing Chun is a concept of looking at actually other martial arts systems. I mean, sure, there's a set of things and there's Chi Sao. We have an idea about punching straight, but we also have the Chinese boxing where your hands are moving a lot like Western boxing. It's all throughout the sets. The classical stuff contains hooks and uppercuts, headbutts and elbows, and a lot of different things. And so it's not just the techniques, right? Bruce Lee had it right. He had it right. And even according to his classmate, Kung Fu brother, and sometimes coach, Wang Shenlong, that he did what Wing Chun was designed to do, to change. Like every martial art, right? I talk a lot because I travel within martial arts circles. I have a lot of friends that are really, really good at Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and boxing and other things like that. I love so much stuff that the only way to know myself is through experiencing all these other things. So I train with these other guys, get strangled sometimes, go through whatever, because it's a lot of fun and you learn and you can go look back with new eyes at the stuff you're trying to do. But I share with them, they share with me. And I can look at the tools that they're using and go, it's all here. Most martial arts systems, because they were designed to kill an enemy, contain all of the tools. It's the practice and the training methods that are the problem. As a philosopher, and being heavily influenced by my teachers in Buddhism and things, I gave up competition fighting at least a long time ago. But I had the chance to go through it and have over 100 fights and experience that pain and winning, and that just what happens when a guy punches you in the mouth when you thought you couldn't get hit in the mouth. See, so if you don't go through that, if you're not training in such a way that you're kind of testing it, you don't have to get punched in the mouth. There are ways to train correctly. If the martial arts system, when you say this is combat, then those things had better be combat efficient. Your training methodology should be aligned with that idea, regardless of style, regardless of system. If you think that Wing Chun is standing in place like this, rock'em sock'em robot people don't even do the punches right. They just this is how they do it, right? Or like this. If you think that's what it is, you are sadly mistaken. And there are a lot of masters out there, super Sifus, that propagate this nonsense. That they have, superpowers and all that kind of stuff. And they're the reason that people look down upon something fantastic like Wing Chun when you're talking about combat, at least, that it's like a nuclear weapon. It's not about preserving the opponent or anything, unless you're in competition, but it was designed to kill the enemy. If a person attacks you, to be nonviolent isn't to just lay there and just let a person kill you. You should be skillful enough. A deer running. You should be skillful enough to preserve your life. And if you can preserve theirs, that's just an added benefit. But when you train for combat and you're attacked, that's different. That's not a competition. But it doesn't mean that eye gouging and secret techniques that can't be used inside of MMA somehow will make you superior. I can promise you that, and I have proved that point to many people. Well, if my iron tiger fist came through, that's ridiculous. You can remove, of course, phone call. You can remove the technique. If you can jab a person with your hand and make contact, then you can remove that finger jab for competition and make that effective. right? You take out the finger jab. I could poke you in the eye. Okay, sure, obviously. But that's no excuse to say what you're doing doesn't work in competition because you can't jab a man in the eye. It just means that you're too lazy to train yourself enough. You don't have to be in competition and enter into sporting events when I say competition. Be skillful enough that you can hit your target. And if you're not training in a way that allows you to do that under pressure, and that's not because there's a secret MMA way of doing it. It means that usually when a guy is training for MMA, he probably has hit that target 10,000 times, and that's the key. So Wing Chun, get this idea for my Wing Chun students and followers, people that want to train. Wipe away the things that you think you know about Wing Chun if you're a novice or if you're just starting. And if you've been training and you spent the last 9 months or the last year standing in one spot, listening to the guy who doesn't actually work out with his students tell you that he's too skilled and too deadly to use his stuff against other people, get out of there as fast as you can. Go find somebody else. Better to go find a boxing gym and, take some wrestling or something. But there's a lot of benefit to martial art training and in Wing Chun and Kung Fu in general that has nothing to do with fighting. I'm only talking about the moment you say this is for fighting. And I've bounced a lot of heads off the ground when I was fighting. Real fights. Not in a sporting event. And it was because I was better prepared than my opponent. It had nothing to do with style. Period. I mean, yeah, Wing Chun is great. I teach it. It's branded onto my arm. But I love Muay Thai as well. The elbows in Muay Thai are in Wing Chun. But if you want to improve your Wing Chun, look at the way the Thai boxers are hitting those pads. Look at the way they're using an elbow and go, maybe if I borrow training methodology, if I throw an elbow and I call it karate, it's still an elbow to the face. So you got to work on the tool and go, how can I improve my training? Right? If you love Wing Chun, improve your training. Preserve the art, but don't preserve the art in some traditional mindset, right? Yip Man, all the people before, Bruce Lee, they just kept on changing the art, and then suddenly people say, well, I'm going to do it exactly how Yip Man did it while he had throat cancer and was 80. Standing in one spot, hunched over like this. Instead of like what Yip Man was actually doing and being criticized for doing, the same way Bruce Lee was criticized. He was fighting. He was exchanging with other martial artists. He was constantly altering and changing the system, and every single Wing Chun guy before him was doing the same thing. When they came from village to village and they encountered another martial artist, they looked at this art and said, that would be great, but all this is worthless. We apply the concept of simplicity. We take this movement, we give it a new drill, we find a way to use it better, or maybe they keep it exactly as it is if it's effective. They add it into the system, hack out what's useless, and they keep on going, and they do that all the way down to Yip Man's generation. And around the time of Yip Man, he was criticized, saying, oh, he changed the system, he did all this. Because when you say Wing Chun, it's like saying Kung Fu, or it's like saying martial art. That's a broad umbrella to put everything under. Even if you say Muay Thai from when? If you look at the Muay Thai fighters from 1970, they look nothing like the Muay Thai fighters from now. You know why? Because they keep progressing. They keep getting better. They keep their minds open, some of them, the good ones. But if you go into other martial arts there like 4,000 years ago, they did it exactly like this, boy. If you don't put your hands up. You get too caught up in tradition. Tradition is great. I still use the term Sifu, but it's mostly because of a nickname. Sifu in Chinese didn't mean any kind of special thing. It could be used for teacher, for father, for older gentleman, for cab driver. But it's a sign of respect. We still do this or this, but you could fist bump and slap hands. Once you know somebody really well. Sifu James Sinclair was talking about that in a video that I sent to one of my students just recently. It's the point of just showing respect for the knowledge. They give you their body. If you're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you can't do it without the other person. They lay there to let you practice the arm bar, to choke them, to do leg locks, to pass the guard, to mount, to do whatever. All your drills you're doing because of the other person being there, so we show respect. So that's a tradition. So we in Kung Fu, people get carried away with it, though. What became known as Kung Fu became the performance art and not what the real Kung Fu people were doing. Kung Fu guys originally, I keep saying this, whether you were doing Wing Chun or Hung Gar, Choi Li Foot, they were fighting, they were being cut with blades, they were killing the opponent on the battlefield or being killed. And they were adapting and adjusting and stealing from the other guy's techniques in order to like, this dude's got some secret technique. He's killing everybody. They would send in people and try to learn it. Nowadays, what happens though? We're going to preserve it. My Hong Gar is going to be exactly like it was 1,000 years ago, even though it's not that old. But you get what I'm saying. That can happen in anything, so we should take a lesson from martial artists like Bruce Lee, or even like Ip Man, or like Rickson Gracie. Rickson Gracie, if you don't know who Rickson Gracie is, you're probably not a martial artist or you're living under a rock. Probably, I don't even want to get into politics of it, but out of the Gracie family, he was known as the champion. And it wasn't just because he had a better armbar than anyone else. It had a lot to do with his mind and the way he trained and how he looked at stuff. Sure, he was still doing jiu-jitsu, but they were constantly improving upon the techniques, the applications. You know how they were doing it? By training. By training and rolling and constantly taking the pressure and feeling like, okay, it didn't work when I did it. That way you try it again, and you do that 100,000 times. We talk about these things in Kung Fu, and you know, the invisible technique is a feeling. Well, Rickson Gracie says a lot about invisible jiu-jitsu. It's the thing that can't be taught, it has to be experienced. So you look at Rickson Gracie, he's improving the art. Not because he suddenly has a special new modern technique. Because of constant practice, hacking away what shouldn't be there, learning through experience and improving it and passing it on to his students. As Wing Chun people, it is our responsibility as a Kung Fu guy, as a martial artist of any style, system, whatever, that's an illusion. Within Wing Chun, we do have sets of techniques. Like we have Chi Sao, like I said, we have straight punching, we have kicking, we have elbows that look just like Muay Thai, headbutts, eye gouging, fighting. We have arm bars and locks and takedowns and all. But if I want to really specialize in arm bars and locks, and I'm going to the guys that is what they do most. And I'm going to learn from that, I bring it back to my Wing Chun, I become better because of it. If I want to really pick up the drills, or if I want to become better at just the one thing that this other system has, maybe we all have kicks. But if you look at a specific system like Muay Thai, and they're just breaking legs, annihilating a certain way when it comes to combat, and you want to go in and look at it, I'm going to go to the guys that specialize in doing that, and I'm going to try to improve what I'm doing, bring it back for my students and for myself. And improve my Wing Chun, and improve my Kung Fu. Kung Fu simply means hard work, or it means great effort. The best translation of Kung Fu is skill through great effort. Right? So you could be Tiger Woods and have good Kung Fu, because you have skill through great effort, lots of time training. But it's our responsibility in Wing Chun, and myself as a Sifu, to pass the art on. Sure, I teach Silam Tao to preserve the system in that way. For the mind, the meditation, the things that have not necessarily things to do with combat. The Kung Fu is like a yoga, right? We're using combative movement to train our bodies, liberate our minds. But when I focus on combative technique, I don't teach something because it was taught 400 years ago and go, well, my teacher did it, and just because you can't do it doesn't mean anything. You know, you keep what's supposed to be there. You try to improve what you can. Sometimes I teach things that I don't feel like I can personally use, but my students might be able to apply them. But not things that are simply ridiculous. Like I've seen, and I wouldn't call out any particular martial art or any person, but a person was recently showing me how, from a simple punch, if a guy throws a punch, you do this technique, and you scratch. I thought, okay, is that how you train? So, when it comes to martial arts, obviously this channel is about Wing Chun. If you look at Wing Chun as a separate style, you are missing the point. Better to do many other things than to ever set foot in a Wing Chun school, if that's how you see it. If you look at Francis Fong of Atlanta, Georgia, in my opinion, he is probably the greatest exponent of Wing Chun living today. Not necessarily because he's better at doing a certain technique, because of his mind, his training applications. Because of people like Sifu Dan Inosanto, Bruce Lee's protege. Exchanging with them, doing Filipino martial arts. Having a black belt actually under Pedro Sauer, which is a Rickson Gracie black belt, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because he wanted to improve himself. And therefore he improved his art, and he changed what needed to be changed, and he passed it on to his students. Teaching them to have an open mind. And that is what I am doing. And I care very little for the guys to go, you don't do traditional Wing Chun, son? We don't do back fists. It just makes me laugh. I have lots of friends that do martial arts and do very classical and very traditional martial arts. They're not all trying to enter the UFC. But the moment they actually say, well, I'm doing this so I can be more confident if somebody attacks me outside of Kmart, then I go, okay, you might want to supplement that with something else. Then we have to talk a little real. But if you're doing martial arts that have kicks and they have elbows and all, it's your intention that makes the difference. What are you trying to get out of it? Just like anything else in life. In Wing Chun, and I teach this myself, we do have training where we stand on one leg, we put our hands here, not because we fight like this. We're training the muscle groups in our legs. Sometimes we hold onto the wall, you do a leg extension, you can't see my leg because of the camera. We're standing like this, or we do punches on one leg, standing up, but it's not because we're training punches. We think that we're ever going to have one leg up throwing punches because we're trying to train our balance and things like that. But when we put together a drill, it's the same as anything else. Throw a punch, slip, hit a combination, slip in for a takedown and grab, and a punch to the face if I'm on top, that kind of thing. Adapting as we go. And the rain is coming. So if you got my point, if you're a Wing Chun Sifu, stop or do whatever you want, but I am going to teach with my small 40 years of experience and my learning from all these great teachers the way that I like. Tan style, Pak style, trapping, grappling, kicking, elbowing, headbutting, whatever works in a modern way, still preserving all the things that should be done for meditation and drilling. Help your students get better. Take yourself down off the pedestal. Work out with your students. Don't be afraid to tap out. Get on the mat. Let's improve the art. Don't be so attached to style. Wing Chun is a fantastic art. It's very effective in combat if the person applying the combat has trained properly for it. Outside of that, it's just like any other martial art. The art's not doing anything. Jiu-jitsu doesn't throw an arm lock on someone. The practitioner does. You understand? With that, I'll turn you loose. Thank you so much. As always, love everyone. Talk with you soon.